The rain in Seattle doesn't wash things clean, it just makes the grime slicker. It was a Thursday night. The kind that feels heavy in your lungs. Where the mist hangs low over the Puget Sound like a dirty curtain. Monica Reed sat in her 2016 Honda Civic. The engine idling with a rhythmic, unsettled rattle. She wasn't looking at the road. Her eyes were fixed on the rearview mirror. But she wasn't checking for traffic. She was looking at the backseat. Tyler was asleep. Her 7-year-old son was curled up in his booster seat. A worn-out plush dinosaur clutched tight to his chest. His breathing was soft, a stark contrast to the chaotic drumming of the rain against the roof. Even in the dim light of the street lamps, Monica could see the innocence on his face, the relaxed brow. The slightly parted lips. He looked so much like his father that it sometimes physically hurt her to look at him for too long. Mark. 5 years ago, the police report had called it an industrial accident. A gas leak, a spark, a tragedy at the docks. Case closed. The insurance company paid out a pittance. The city moved on, and Monica was left with a 2-year-old boy and a hole in her heart the size of the ocean. But grief is a quiet roommate, suspicion is a noisy neighbor. Monica gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. She checked her watch. 11:42 p.m. "I'm doing this for us. Ty," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the heater. Just one more meeting. Just one more truth. She wasn't a cop. She wasn't a spy. She was a waitress at a diner on 4th Avenue who scraped by on tips and caffeine. But for the last 3 months, she had been something else, a source. Her phone buzzed in the cup holder. The screen lit up with a single name, Elias. Elias Thorne, the journalist. Once a Pulitzer Prize nominee. Now a man who drank his dinner and chased ghosts for a failing independent blog. He was abrasive, cynical, and smelled perpetually of stale tobacco. But he was the only one who listened when Monica told him that Mark didn't make mistakes. That Mark wouldn't have caused an explosion. She picked up the phone. "I'm outside your building, Elias," she said. "The lights are out." Silence on the other end. Static. Then, a sound that made the hair on Monica's arms stand up. It was a wet, jagged cough. "Monica." Elias's voice was a rasp, stripped of its usual bravado. "Don't. Come up." "Elias? What's wrong?" "I have the documents from the storage unit. The ones you asked for." "Listen to me." He wheezed. The sound of something heavy falling over echoed through the speaker. "The architect, he knows. He knows about the boy." Monica's heart stopped. She turned around instantly, checking the locks on the car doors, staring wildly into the dark rain-swept street. Tyler shifted in his sleep but didn't wake. "What are you talking about? Who is the architect?" "Get out of there, Monica. Go. Taking the story isn't worth your life. Take the boy and run." "Elias." The line went dead. For a second, Monica Reed was just a terrified mother. But then, the adrenaline hit. The survival instinct that had kept her going for 5 years kicked into overdrive. She looked up at the third-floor window of the brick apartment building. A shadow moved across the glass. A flashlight beam cut through the dark room. Someone was in there, and Elias wasn't answering. Panic screamed at her to drive away, to hit the gas and never look back. But Elias had the proof. He had the one thing that could clear Mark's name. And if he was hurt. She looked at Tyler again. Safe, sleeping. If she left now, the truth died with Elias. If she went up there, she might die too. 5 minutes. she told herself. Unbuckling her seatbelt, she reached under the passenger seat and pulled out the tire iron she kept for emergencies. "I'll be back in 5 minutes. Baby, I promise." She locked the car from the outside, the beep-beep sounding like a gunshot in the quiet street, and ran toward the building entrance. She didn't know it then, but Monica Reed had just crossed the line of no return. The waitress was gone. The hunter was born. The hallway smelled of boiled cabbage and old carpet. The fluorescent light overhead flickered with a maddening buzz-click, casting long, dancing shadows against the peeling wallpaper. Monica's sneakers squeaked on the linoleum as she sprinted up the stairs to the 3rd floor. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. The tire iron felt heavy and cold in her hand, a ridiculous weapon against whatever waited upstairs. But it was all she had. Apartment 3B. The door was ajar, just a crack. A sliver of darkness poured out into the hallway. Monica pressed her back against the wall next to the doorframe. Her heart was hammering against her ribs so hard she thought it might crack them. She listened. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. Just the sound of the rain outside and the distant wail of a siren, too far away to help. She pushed the door open with the tip of the tire iron. "Elias?" she whispered. The apartment was a wreck. It always was, stacks of newspapers, takeout boxes, and overflowing ashtrays were Elias's chosen decor, but this was different. This was violence. Bookshelves had been toppled, the mattress was overturned, the laptop on his desk was missing, the cords ripped from the wall. And there, near the window, lay Elias Thorne. Monica dropped the tire iron. It hit the floor with a dull clang. But she didn't care. She rushed to his side, her knees skidding into the mess of papers scattered on the floor. "Elias! Oh God, Elias!" He was slumped against the radiator. His shirt, usually a crisp white button-down, was soaked in a dark, spreading crimson stain. His glasses were cracked, hanging off one ear. He blinked, his eyes struggling to focus on her face. When he recognized her, a look of pure terror washed over him. "I told you," he coughed, blood bubbling at the corner of his lips. "I told you to run." "I'm calling 911, Monica said, her hands shaking as she fumbled for her phone. Elias's hand shot out, gripping her wrist with surprising strength. His fingers were cold. "No police. They are part of it. The 4th precinct, on the payroll." Monica froze. The police? The people she was supposed to trust? "Who did this to you?" she demanded, tears blurring her vision. She grabbed a scarf from the floor and pressed it against his wound, trying to staunch the flow. "Stay with me, Elias. Please. It's too deep, kid," he wheezed. "Listened, too late. But I didn't give it to them." "Give them what?" Elias winced, pain shooting through his body. He reached into the pocket of his trousers, his movements jerky and failing. He pulled out a small, silver object. It wasn't a USB drive. It wasn't a key. It was an old, tarnished locket. "Take it," he rasped, shoving it into her hand. "A locket? Elias, what is this?" "Not inside," he gasped for air, his eyes widening as the life began to drain from them. "The photo. Behind the photo. The code leads to the storage." "What storage?" "The hollow," he whispered. The word hung in the air, heavy and ominous. "Go to the hollow." Suddenly, the floorboards in the hallway outside creaked. Monica's head snapped up. Heavy boots. Slow, Deliberate steps approaching the door. Elias heard it too. His grip on her wrist tightened one last time. Window, he mouthed. Fire escape. Go. Save Tyler. I can't leave you. I'm already dead, Elias said, a sad, final smile touching his lips. Be the story, Monica. Don't let them edit you out. His hand went limp, his eyes fixed on a point somewhere beyond the ceiling. Elias Thorne was gone. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Monica scrambled backward, her breath caught in her throat. She looked at the door, then at the window, the fire escape. She grabbed the locket, shoving it deep into her jeans pocket. She snatched the tire iron from the floor. Kick. The door exploded inward, splintering off its hinges. Monica didn't wait to see who entered. She threw herself at the window, shattering the glass with the tire iron and tumbling out onto the rusted metal grate of the fire escape. The cold rain hit her face like a slap, waking her up from the nightmare into reality. She's on the roof, a deep, distorted voice yelled from inside the apartment. Pop pop. 2 gunshots. A bullet sparked against the metal railing inches from her hand. Monica didn't scream. She didn't have the air for it. She scrambled down the slippery metal stairs, sliding more than running, the iron grating tearing at her jeans and skin. She reached the alleyway floor, her ankles jarring with the impact. She didn't stop. She ran toward the street, toward the car, toward Tyler. As she rounded the corner, her heart plummeted into her stomach. A black SUV was parked directly behind her Honda Civic. 2 men in dark raincoats were standing by her car, shining a flashlight into the backseat. Tyler. Rage, hot and blinding, flooded Monica's veins. It washed away the fear. It washed away the grief. It left only a primal, animalistic need to protect. She didn't hide. She didn't run away. She gripped the tire iron, feeling the weight of it, the reality of it. Hey, she screamed, her voice cracking with fury as she charged out of the shadows. The men turned, surprised by the woman sprinting at them through the rain. Get away from my son. One of the men reached for his waistband. Monica didn't slow down. She wasn't a fighter. She had never thrown a punch in her life. But she was a mother, and they were threatening her cub. She swung the tire iron with every ounce of strength she possessed, aiming not for the man, but for the streetlight above them. Smash! Glass rained down. The street plunged into darkness. Chaos erupted. Grab her, one voice shouted. Monica used the darkness. She knew exactly where her car was. She dove for the driver's side door, jamming the key into the lock. She threw herself inside, locking the door instantly. Mommy? A sleepy, frightened voice came from the back. Get down, Tyler. Get on the floor, Monica screamed, jamming the key into the ignition. The engine roared to life. A fist slammed against her window, spider webbing the glass. A face pressed against it, masked. Cold, lifeless eyes staring in. Monica shifted into reverse and slammed her foot on the gas. The car lurched backward, slamming into the black SUV with a sickening crunch. The man at her window lost his balance and fell. She shifted to drive, tires screeching on the wet asphalt, and peeled away from the curb, fishtailing wildly before straightening out. More gunshots echoed behind them, but the rear window held. Monica drove. She ran red lights. She took turns at dangerous speeds. She drove until the city skyline was a blur in her rearview mirror. Only when they were miles away, merging onto the dark, open expanse of the interstate. Did she dare to look back? Tyler was on the floorboard, clutching his dinosaur, eyes wide with terror. Mom? What happened? Who were those bad men? Monica reached back, her hand trembling uncontrollably, and brushed his hair. Her fingers were sticky. She looked at them in the dashboard light. Blood. Elias's blood. It's okay, Ty, she lied, her voice breaking. We're going on a trip. Baby. Just you and me. She felt the locket burning a hole in her pocket. The hollow. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't know who the architect was. But as she drove into the black night, Monica Reed made a vow. They had killed the journalist. They had threatened her son. They had made a mistake. She wasn't just a witness anymore. She was the headline they never saw coming. The rain didn't let up. It hammered against the windshield of the Honda Civic like 1,000 tiny fists, mimicking the frantic rhythm of Monica's heart. She had been driving for an hour, but it felt like a lifetime. The glow of Seattle was fading in the rearview mirror, reduced to a smear of orange and red against the black sky. Monica didn't dare stop. She merged onto the I-5 South, burying her car among the late-night 18-wheelers, praying that the anonymity of the dark highway would swallow them whole. Mom? The small voice from the backseat made Monica jump. The car swerved slightly before she corrected it, her knuckles white on the wheel. She swallowed the metallic taste of fear. I'm here, Ty. I'm right here. Where are we going? I forgot my toothbrush. The question, so innocent and mundane, cut through her like a knife. Tyler didn't know about the blood in Elias's apartment. He didn't know about the men in the raincoats or the fact that his mother had just rammed their car into an SUV to escape. We're going on an adventure. Honey, Monica lied, her eyes darting between the road and the mirrors. A secret mission. Just you and me, like the spies in your cartoons. Remember? Spies? Tyler's voice perked up, sleep temporarily forgotten. Do we need a code word? Monica checked the mirror again. No black SUV. Not yet, but every set of headlights behind her looked like a pair of predatory eyes. Yes, she whispered. The code word is silence. The best spies are the ones nobody hears. So tonight, we have to be invisible. We can't tell anyone where we are. Not even Grandma. Okay? Okay. Mission accepted. Tyler yawned, hugging his plush dinosaur tighter. Within moments, his breathing evened out. Monica exhaled, a shudder running through her body. She wiped a hand across her face and pulled it away to see a faint smudge under the passing streetlights. Blood. Elias's blood. It was dry now, sticky and copper-smelling. She needed to stop. She needed to wash this off. And she needed to see what Elias had died to give her. It was 1:15 a.m. when Monica pulled into the gravel lot of the Blue Heron, a dilapidated motel on the outskirts of Tacoma. The neon sign buzzed angrily. The R burnt out, casting the wet pavement in a sickly blue light. It was the kind of place that didn't ask for ID and didn't care where you came from. Perfect for someone who didn't want to be found. Monica parked in the darkest corner, beneath the dripping branches of an old oak tree. She draped her jacket over Tyler's sleeping form, scooped him up, and ran through the rain to the front office. The night manager was a heavy-set man with greasy skin, his eyes glued to a tiny TV showing a rerun of a wrestling match. He looked up at Monica, soaked, disheveled, holding a child. "One room," Monica said, her voice raspy. She slapped a crumpled $50 bill on the counter. Her tips from a double shift. Cash. No receipt. The man looked at the bill. Then at her. He didn't ask questions. He just shrugged and tossed a key onto the laminate counter. Room 104. End of the row. Ice machines broken. Room 104 smelled of stale smoke and mildew. The floral wallpaper was peeling at the corners like sunburned skin. But it had a deadbolt. Monica threw the lock and wedged the room's single wooden chair under the doorknob for good measure. She laid Tyler on the lumpy bed, removed his shoes, and pulled the thin duvet over him. He didn't stir. Only when her son was safe did Monica allow herself to break. She rushed into the bathroom, turning the faucet on full blast. She scrubbed her hands under the icy water, scrubbing until her skin turned raw and red. The blood, it swirled down the drain, disappearing into the dark, but the smell seemed etched into her pores. Elias, she choked out, a sob escaping her throat. She looked at her reflection in the cracked mirror. The woman staring back looked like a stranger, wild-eyed, terrified, feral. She remembered his last words. The hollow. The locket. Monica turned off the water. Her hands trembling, she pulled the silver object from her wet jeans. It was heavy, cold, an old-fashioned heart-shaped locket. The silver tarnished black in the grooves of the engraving. She pried it open with a fingernail. Inside was a tiny black and white photo of a woman standing in front of a cabin. She looked happy, peaceful. Monica didn't recognize her. Behind the photo, Monica found a bobby pin in her purse and carefully worked the edge of the photo loose. It popped out. It wasn't a microchip. It wasn't an SD card. It was a piece of translucent tracing paper, folded into a tight square, and a small, flat metal key, the kind used for lockers. Stamped into the metal was the number 309. Monica unfolded the paper. The handwriting was jagged, hurried. Bainbridge Ferry Terminal. Locker 309. Don't trust Chief Vance. Project Falcon never ended. Monica read it 3 times. Project Falcon? Chief Vance? Vance was the head of the Seattle Police Department. A man who smiled on the evening news and promised safety. Elias said the police were on the payroll. And Bainbridge Ferry Terminal. Was that the hollow? Or was the hollow what lay inside locker 309? Suddenly, a terrifying thought struck her. A memory, sharp and painful. Mark, her husband, he had worked at the Port Authority. The industrial accident that killed him. The gas explosion. It happened at a storage depot near the Bainbridge line. The room spun. Monica gripped the edge of the sink to keep from falling. For 5 years, she had believed it was an accident. But what if it wasn't? What if Mark knew about Project Falcon? What if Mark was killed for the same reason Elias was? The truth wasn't just a story anymore. It was a death sentence her family had been carrying for 5 years without knowing it. Crunch. The sound of tires on gravel outside. Heavy tires. Slow. Deliberate. Monica killed the bathroom light instantly. She grabbed the shower curtain rod, it was loose. A pathetic weapon, and pressed herself against the wall, peering through the gap in the curtains. A black SUV prowled through the parking lot, its headlights sweeping across the row of doors like searchlights. It stopped right in front of her car. Monica's blood ran cold. How? She hadn't used her cards. She had turned off her phone. Wait, the phone. She looked at her cell phone sitting on the nightstand next to Tyler. It was off, but modern tech, Or maybe they had tagged her car days ago. A man stepped out of the SUV. Even in the rain, she recognized the silhouette, the same heavy build as the man in the apartment. He held a device in his hand, a tracker. He pointed to room 104. Monica didn't think. She didn't hesitate. The time for fear was over. She rushed to the bed, placing a hand over Tyler's mouth before shaking him awake. His eyes flew open, wide with panic, but seeing his mother's fierce expression, he stayed quiet. "Shush," Monica whispered, her voice steel. "The game is on. Ty, we have to move, now." The doorknob jiggled. Then, a heavy thud as a shoulder slammed against the wood. The chair wedged under the knob groaned. "Open up, police," a voice boomed, but it wasn't the police. It was the voice of an executioner. Monica scooped Tyler up and ran into the bathroom, locking the flimsy door behind them. She climbed onto the toilet and looked at the small ventilation window high on the wall. It opened to the back alley. "Can you climb, baby?" "Mom, I'm scared." "I know. Be brave. For Daddy." She pushed the window open. It was tight, but Tyler would fit. She boosted him up. "Jump down into the grass. Run to the woods. Don't look back." Tyler scrambled through. Monica heard a soft thump as he landed. Crack. The front door gave way. Heavy boots stormed into the motel room. "Bathroom. She's in the bathroom." Monica hoisted herself up, scraping her ribs against the metal frame. She tumbled out just as the bathroom door splintered inward. A gunshot blew a hole through the shower curtain. But Monica was already hitting the wet grass outside. She grabbed Tyler's hand and didn't look back at the warm light of the room. Or her car. Or her old life. They sprinted into the dense, dark woods bordering the highway. Monica Reed was gone. The hunter was awake. And she was going to Bainbridge. The woods smelled of wet pine and rotting leaves. It was a cold, indifferent smell that seeped into Monica's bones as she huddled under the shelter of a fallen cedar tree. Tyler shivering against her chest. They had been walking for 2 hours. The motel was miles behind them. A distant memory of flashing lights and sirens cutting through the Tacoma night. Monica had ditched her jacket to wrap it around Tyler's shoulders. Her thin waitress uniform was soaked through, clinging to her skin like a second, freezing layer. "Mom, my feet hurt," Tyler whispered. He wasn't complaining, he was stating a fact. His sneakers were muddy and soaked. "I know, baby, I know." Monica rubbed his arms briskly, trying to generate friction, heat, anything, just a little further. "We need to find a phone. We need to find a ride." They emerged from the tree line onto the shoulder of a secondary road. In the distance, the neon glow of a 24-hour truck stop beckoned like a lighthouse in a storm. Big Al's Diesel and Diner. "Stay close to me," Monica instructed. "Keep your head down. Don't look at anyone." They walked into the diner. It was warm, smelling of frying bacon and old coffee. A few truckers sat hunched over the counter, nursing mugs of black sludge. Monica kept her head lowered, hair falling over her face, guiding Tyler toward the back, near the restrooms. She counted her money. $42 left. 2 hot chocolates to go. "Please," she told the waitress, a tired woman with too much blue eyeshadow, and a pack of aspirin. As she waited, her eyes drifted to the TV mounted in the corner. It was tuned to Seattle breaking news. The headline made her knees buckle. "Breaking. Manhunt underway for the Black Widow." And there it was, her driver's license photo. Next to it, A photo of Elias Thorne's body being wheeled out of his apartment. The anchorwoman's voice was grave. Authorities have identified the suspect as Monica Reed, 32. She is wanted for the brutal murder of investigative journalist Elias Thorne. Police warn that she is armed and dangerous. She may be traveling with her 7-year-old son. Chief Vance has issued a statewide Amber Alert. Armed and dangerous? Murder? The room seemed to tilt. They weren't just killing Elias. They were framing her. They were rewriting the narrative before she could even speak. Chief Vance. Elias was right. The police were the enemy. "Here's your cocoa, hun," the waitress said, sliding the cups across the counter. She looked at the TV. Then back at Monica. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You look familiar." Monica's heart hammered against her ribs. She grabbed the cups. "Just got a common face," she stammered. "Keep the change." She grabbed Tyler's hand and practically dragged him out of the diner. Into the cold rain. "Mom, you're hurting my hand," Tyler whined. "Run, Tyler, run." They sprinted across the parking lot, dodging between the massive 18-wheelers idling in the dark. Monica scanned the cabs. She needed a way out. She couldn't take a bus, there would be cameras. She couldn't rent a car. A refrigerated truck with Washington plates was pulling out, its engine rumbling like a beast waking up. The driver, an older man with a white beard, was checking his side mirrors. Monica didn't think. She saw the metal ladder on the back of the trailer. "Climb," she hissed, lifting Tyler up. "Hold on tight." "But Mom." "Do it." They scrambled up the ladder just as the truck lurched forward. There was a small gap between the cab and the trailer, a reefer unit platform. It was dangerous, loud, and exposed to the wind, but it was hidden from the road. As the truck picked up speed, merging onto the highway, Monica pulled Tyler into her lap, shielding him from the biting wind with her own body. She watched the city lights blur past. They were invisible now, just two ghosts hitching a ride on a steel giant. 3:45 a.m. Seattle waterfront. The truck slowed down as it hit the industrial district. Monica waited until it stopped at a red light on Alaskan Way. Then nudged Tyler. "Jump." They hit the pavement hard, rolling into the shadows of a construction site. Monica checked Tyler instantly. "You okay?" "I scraped my knee," he sniffled, trying to be brave. "You're a soldier, Ty, a brave soldier." She kissed his forehead, tasting grit and rain. They were close. The Bainbridge Ferry Terminal, Coleman Dock, loomed ahead. It was a massive structure of concrete and glass, currently undergoing renovations. But it was crawling with police. Blue and red lights reflected off the wet pavement. Patrol cars were stationed at the vehicle entrance. Uniformed officers were checking IDs at the pedestrian turnstiles. Locker 309. It had to be inside. But how? She was the most wanted woman in Washington state. One step into that light, and it was over. Monica looked around. Desperation sharpened her senses. She saw a janitorial van parked near the side entrance. The driver unloading crates of cleaning supplies. A uniform jacket, gray with a "Facilities" logo, hung on the open passenger door. "Wait here behind the dumpster," Monica ordered Tyler. "Count to 100, slowly." "Mom." "Count." Monica moved like a cat. She slipped up to the van while the driver was in the back. She snatched the jacket and a baseball cap from the seat. She pulled them on, tucking her hair up under the cap. It was too big, but it covered her face. She grabbed a mop bucket from the cart nearby and walked straight toward the side maintenance entrance. Head down, looking bored. "Hey," a cop shouted. Monica froze. Her hand drifted to the tire iron she still had tucked in her waistband beneath the oversized jacket. "You dropped your rag," the cop said, pointing to a cloth on the ground. Monica didn't speak. She just nodded, picked up the rag, and kept walking. Her heart was beating so loud she thought he could hear it. She swiped the keycard attached to the jacket's pocket. The door beeped. Green light. She was in. The terminal was quiet at this hour, save for the cleaning crews and security. Monica abandoned the bucket and navigated the hallways, following the signs for long-term storage. Rows of metal lockers lined a fluorescent-lit corridor near the baggage claim. 305, 307, 309. It was a large locker, the kind used for golf clubs or musical instruments. Monica pulled out the small key from the locket. Her hand trembled as she inserted it. Click. The door swung open. It wasn't empty. Inside sat a black duffel bag. It looked heavy. Monica unzipped it. The first thing she saw was money. Stacks of it. Used bills. Non-sequential. At least $50,000. Next to it, a Glock 19 handgun and 2 spare magazines. And at the bottom, a thick manila envelope labeled, Project Falcon. Eyes only. But that wasn't all. Sitting on top of the money was a burner phone. A cheap, disposable flip phone. As Monica reached for it, the phone suddenly lit up. It began to ring. The sound echoed in the empty hallway like a siren. Ringing. Monica stared at it. Who knew? Only Elias knew. And Elias was dead. She picked it up and flipped it open. She didn't speak. "Hello, Monica," a voice said on the other end. It was digital, distorted, impossible to trace. "You made it further than we expected." "Who is this?" Monica hissed. "Are you the architect?" "No," the voice replied. "I'm the one who's going to help you kill him. But first, you need to turn around." Monica spun around. At the end of the hallway, a figure stood in the shadows. He wasn't a cop. He was wearing a long trench coat. And he was holding a suppressed pistol aimed directly at her chest. "Drop the bag, Monica," the man said, "and maybe your son lives to see his 8th birthday." Monica looked at the gun. She looked at the heavy bag in her hand. She thought of Tyler, shivering behind a dumpster outside. She realized then that the gun in the bag wasn't just for show. Monica dropped the phone, but she didn't drop the bag. She kicked the locker door shut, grabbed the duffel bag's strap, and ran, not away from the man, but toward the fire alarm on the wall. Smash! She pulled the lever. Klaxons began to wail. Emergency lights flashed. Sprinklers hissed to life, filling the hallway with a blinding mist. The man fired. Thwip thwip. Bullets sparked against the metal lockers. Monica dove into the stairwell, sliding down the railing, clutching the bag that held the only truth left in her life. The hunt wasn't just on. It was a war. The fire alarm was deafening. It screamed through the terminal. A piercing mechanical wail that vibrated in Monica's teeth. The sprinklers hissed from the ceiling, turning the hallway into a blurred, gray tunnel of artificial rain. Monica didn't look back. She clutched the heavy duffel bag to her chest and sprinted. Her wet sneakers squeaked violently on the polished linoleum, threatening to send her sprawling with every step. Thwip! A bullet chipped the concrete wall just inches from her ear. Concrete dust sprayed into her eyes. The assassin was still behind her. He moved with a terrifying calm, striding through the chaotic spray of the sprinklers like a shark through water. He didn't run, he hunted. Monica burst through the double doors marked emergency exit only. The alarm triggered a new, higher-pitched screech. She tumbled out onto the wet asphalt of the loading dock, the cold night air hitting her face like a slap. She was back outside. The real rain was falling harder now, washing away the sprinkler water but doing nothing to cool the burning panic in her veins. "Tyler," she gasped, her lungs burning. She scrambled over a stack of wooden pallets, ignoring the splinters tearing at her palms. The dumpster. The green metal dumpster where she had told him to count to 100. "Ty, Mommy's here. We have to go." She rounded the corner, sliding in the mud. The space behind the dumpster was empty. Monica froze. The world seemed to stop spinning. The sirens, the rain, the shouting from the terminal, it all faded into a dull buzz. "Tyler?" Her voice was small, broken. She looked at the ground. There, lying face down in a puddle of oil and rainwater, was the plush dinosaur. Its green fabric was soaked, its button eyes staring blankly up at the sky. He never let go of that dinosaur. Never. No. A scream ripped from her throat. Raw and primal. "Tyler!" She spun around, wild-eyed, scanning the parking lot. Through the curtain of rain, about 50 yards away, she saw it. A black sedan, unmarked, tinted windows. It was idling near the exit gate, its brake lights glowing like demon eyes in the dark. The back door was just closing. And for a split second, before the tint obscured him, she saw a small hand press against the glass. A hand she had held 1,000 times. A hand she had kissed goodnight. "Mommy." She couldn't hear him through the glass and the rain, but she saw his mouth form the word. The car peeled out, tires screeching, merging aggressively into the flow of traffic leaving the ferry terminal. Panic exploded into rage. Pure, white-hot rage. They had taken her husband. They had taken her friend. Now, they had taken her son. Monica didn't collapse. She didn't cry. The tears evaporated instantly in the heat of her fury. She shoved the dinosaur into her pocket, a talisman of vengeance. She slung the heavy duffel bag over her shoulder, strapping it tight across her chest. She needed wheels. She sprinted toward the parking area. A man in a leather jacket was standing next to a sleek, black motorcycle, a Yamaha sport bike. He was distracted, looking toward the terminal where smoke was now billowing out, fumbling with his helmet. Monica didn't ask. She didn't hesitate. She ran up behind him and swung the heavy duffel bag like a wrecking ball. It connected with the back of his head with a sickening thud. The man crumpled to the ground without a sound. "I'm sorry," she whispered, stepping over him. She grabbed the helmet from his limp hand and jammed it onto her head. She straddled the bike. It was heavy, powerful. Mark had taught her to ride on his old Harley years ago. Balance. Mon. It's all about balance and not being afraid of the lean. She kicked the starter. The engine roared to life beneath her. A beast waking up. It vibrated through her legs, syncing with her racing heart. She kicked the kickstand up and revved the throttle. The bike shot forward, front wheel lifting slightly off the wet pavement. Monica leaned low over the tank. Making herself small, she swerved around the confused pedestrians, jumped the curb, and tore onto the main road. Far ahead, she saw the taillights of the black sedan weaving through traffic. She wasn't running away anymore. The prey had turned. She twisted the throttle, and the world blurred into streaks of light. The speedometer climbed, 60, 80, 100 miles per hour. Inside the duffel bag, next to the money and the gun, the Project Falcon file shifted. The secret that had destroyed her life was right there against her heart. But Monica didn't care about the conspiracy right now. She didn't care about the president, or the police, or the journalist. She had one mission: get him back. As she wove through the traffic, rain slashing against her visor, Monica Reed let out a scream of fury that was lost in the roar of the engine. The chase was on. Speed is a drug, but tonight, it was a weapon. The speedometer on the stolen Yamaha R6 hit 110 miles per hour. The rain wasn't just falling anymore at this speed. It felt like gravel being fired into Monica's chest. The oversized helmet rattled against her jaw, but her eyes were locked on a single point in the distance: the twin red taillights of the black sedan. They were weaving through the late-night traffic on I-5 South, cutting off semi-trucks and ignoring lanes. The sedan was heavy, armored, a tank on wheels, but Monica was smaller, faster. "Lean, Mon. Trust the tires," Mark's voice whispered in her ear. A ghost in the machine. She leaned hard into a curve, her knee hovering inches above the wet asphalt. The bike screamed in protest, but it held. She was closing the gap. 50 yards, 40 yards. Suddenly, the rear window of the sedan rolled down. Monica didn't see the face, only the muzzle flash. Pop, pop, pop. Gunfire. On the interstate. A bullet sparked off the pavement to her left. Another whizzed past her helmet with an angry hornet buzz. The car in front of her, a blue minivan, swerved in panic. Slamming its brakes, Monica gasped, adrenaline flooding her system. She didn't brake. She couldn't. Instead, she twisted the throttle, shooting the gap between the minivan and the concrete median barrier. She scraped the wall, screeching metal on concrete, but she made it through. She was angry now, not scared, angry. "Give him back," she screamed inside her helmet, though no one could hear her. Then, the world exploded in blue and red. Sirens wailed from behind, a lot of them. Monica glanced in the side mirror. 3 state trooper cruisers were gaining on her, lights flashing blindingly in the rain. Pull over immediately," a loudspeaker boomed over the roar of the wind. They weren't chasing the sedan. They were chasing her, the cop killer. The kidnappers were getting away, protected by the very chaos they created, while Monica was being hunted. "Not tonight," she hissed. Ahead, the sedan took a sharp exit toward the port of Tacoma, an industrial wasteland of shipping containers and cranes. It was a trap. She knew it, but Tyler was the bait. Monica swerved across 3 lanes of traffic, cutting off a police cruiser. The cop car fishtail-ed on the wet road, spinning out into the grass median. She hit the exit ramp, the bike's tires skipping dangerously on the painted lines. The port was a maze of shadows. Towering stacks of shipping containers created canyons of steel. The sedan roared down a long, straight alley between 2 rows of containers. There was no way out at the end. It was a dead end facing the dark water of the Puget Sound. The sedan slammed on its brakes, screeching to a halt near the water's edge. Monica didn't stop. She couldn't let them set up a firing line. She gunned the engine one last time, aiming the bike directly at the driver's side door of the sedan. At the last second, She locked the rear brake. The bike slid sideways, a controlled crash. Monica threw herself off the machine, tucking and rolling onto the wet concrete. The motorcycle, now a 400-pound unguided missile, slammed into the side of the sedan with a deafening crunch, caving in the driver's door and shattering the window. Monica scrambled to her feet, ignoring the searing pain in her shoulder and the blood trickling down her leg. She ripped the helmet off and threw it aside. The duffel bag, it was still strapped across her chest. She unzipped it with shaking hands. The driver of the sedan was groaning, pinned by the crushed door. But the back door opened. A man stepped out, tall, bald, wearing a long gray coat. He looked unbothered by the crash. And he was holding Tyler. His massive hand was wrapped around Tyler's small neck. In his other hand, a silver pistol was pressed against the boy's temple. "Stop!" Monica screamed, freezing in place. Tyler was crying, his face pale and streaked with tears. "Mommy! Let him go!" Monica panted, her chest heaving. "I have the bag. I have the files. Just let him go." The man smiled. It was a cold, reptile smile. "The files are useless without the key. Mrs. Reed. And you are just a loose end." He tightened his grip on Tyler. The boy choked. "Don't," Monica begged, stepping forward. "Please. Drop the bag," the man ordered. "Kick it over to me. Or the boy dies right here. And we throw you both in the Sound." Monica looked at the bag at her feet. Then she looked at the man. And then, she looked at the heavy Glock 19 resting inside the open zipper of the bag. She had never fired a gun in her life. Mark had tried to teach her once. But she hated the noise. She hated the violence. "It's not about violence, Mon. It's about stopping bad things from happening." The rain fell harder, washing the blood from her forehead into her eyes. "I said." The man cocked the hammer of his pistol. Click. "Drop it." Monica slowly lowered the bag to the ground. She crouched down. "Okay," she said, her voice trembling. "Okay, you win." Her hand went into the bag. Her fingers brushed the cold steel of the gun barrel. "Slowly," the man warned. Monica gripped the handle. It felt heavy, wrong, but necessary. She looked up at the man. "You made a mistake," she whispered. "What?" "You threatened a mother." Monica didn't stand up. She didn't aim. She just reacted. She ripped the gun from the bag and fired from the hip. Bang! The sound was louder than thunder. The recoil jerked her arm back violently. She missed the man. The bullet sparked against the shipping container behind him. But it was enough. The man flinched. His grip on Tyler loosened for a fraction of a second. "Run, Tyler!" Monica screamed. Tyler bit the man's hand, hard. The man roared in pain and dropped him. Tyler hit the ground and scrambled under the chassis of the sedan. "You bitch!" The man raised his gun toward Monica. Bang! Bang! Monica fired again, eyes open this time. 2 shots. One hit the car door. The second hit the man in the shoulder. He spun around, dropping his weapon, clutching his arm as blood sprayed onto the wet concrete. Monica stood up, the gun still raised, smoke drifting from the barrel. Her hands were shaking so hard she thought she might drop it. The man fell to his knees, groaning. Sirens. They were close now. The police had found the port. Monica ran to the car. She dragged Tyler out from underneath. He was covered in grease and shaking violently. "Mommy, you shot him," Tyler whispered, staring at her with wide, terrified eyes. I know, baby. I know. She hugged him so tight it hurt. We have to go. The police are coming. Are they the bad guys too? Monica looked at the flashing blue lights reflecting off the water. She looked at the wounded man, who was now trying to reach for his fallen gun with his good hand. She kicked the gun into the dark water. Splash. Yes, she said, grabbing the duffel bag with her free hand. Right now, everyone is the bad guy except us. She looked around. The motorcycle was totaled. The sedan was wrecked. The police were blocking the exit. They were trapped. Look, Tyler pointed. Bobbing in the water, tied to a rusted cleat at the edge of the dock, was a small, motorized dinghy, a maintenance boat. Monica looked at the choppy, dark water of the Puget Sound. It was suicide in this storm. But behind them were handcuffs, prison, and a conspiracy that would kill them both. Get in the boat, Ty, she commanded. But it's dark. We're the spies, remember? She jumped into the boat, the cold water soaking her shoes instantly. She pulled the starter cord on the outboard motor. Once, twice. It sputtered to life with a cough of blue smoke. As the first police cruiser screeched onto the dock, its headlights illuminating the scene, Monica gunned the small engine. The dinghy shot away from the dock, disappearing into the black, misty expanse of the water just as the officers ran to the edge. Weapons drawn. They were gone, swallowed by the sea. But in the duffel bag, the phone began to ring again. The Puget Sound at 3 a.m. is not water, it is liquid ink. Cold, indifferent, and deep enough to swallow secrets whole. Monica killed the engine of the stolen dinghy. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the slap of waves against the fiberglass hull and the chattering of Tyler's teeth. They had drifted south, away from the chaos of the port, toward the shadowed coastline of Vashon Island. Ahead, looming out of the mist like skeletal fingers, were the rotting pilings of an abandoned cannery. A few derelict houseboats were moored there, swaying gently in the dark current, a ghost fleet forgotten by time. "Mom, are we safe?" Tyler asked. His voice was barely a whisper. He was wrapped in a tarp Monica had found in the boat. But he was still shivering violently. "For now, Ty, for now." Monica rowed the last 50 yards, her arms screaming in protest. Every muscle fiber felt like it had been torn. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind a dull, throbbing ache in her shoulder where the bullet had grazed her, and a hollow pit in her stomach where her morality used to be. She guided the dinghy under the rotting deck of the largest houseboat. It was covered in moss and barnacles, but it was dry. They climbed aboard. Monica kicked the rusted door open. Inside, it smelled of mildew and old diesel, but it was shelter. She found a lantern on a dusty table and lit it with a match from the kitchen drawer. The soft, yellow glow pushed back the shadows, revealing a cramped living space filled with nautical charts and empty cans. "Sit here," Monica said, lifting Tyler onto a musty sofa. She found a blanket and wrapped him tight. "I need to check the bag. You stay warm. You have blood on your face." "Mommy." Monica wiped her cheek. "It's not mine, baby. Just close your eyes." She moved to the far side of the room, placing the heavy duffel bag on the table. The burner phone was there, silent now, and the file. Project Falcon. Her hands trembled as she reached for the manila envelope. The string tie came undone with a soft swish. She poured the contents onto the table. Photographs, blueprints, bank statements, and a list of names. Monica picked up a photograph first. It was grainy, taken from a distance. It showed a group of men in suits standing on a tarmac next to a private jet. She recognized one of them immediately, Governor Sterling, the man currently running for Senate. She picked up another photo. This one showed a building, a massive data center in the middle of the Nevada desert. The caption read, "Falcon Server Farm, Level 5 access only." What was this? This wasn't just about dirty cops. This was bigger. The burner phone lit up again. Monica stared at it. The screen displayed a single word, "accept." She pressed the green button. "You found a safe harbor," the synthesized voice said. It wasn't a question. "Who are you?" Monica demanded, her voice low and dangerous. "And don't tell me you're a friend. Friends don't let friends get shot at." "I am a legacy," the voice replied. "I am what's left of the conscience of Project Falcon." "Open the blue folder." Monica. Page 3. Monica dug through the pile. She found a thin blue folder. She flipped to page 3. It was a personnel file. Standard HR format. Name, rank, clearance level. Subject. Read. Mark A. Clearance. Level 5, Architect. Status. Terminated, asset liquidated. Monica stopped breathing. The room seemed to tilt. "No," she whispered. "No, this is a mistake. Mark was a maintenance supervisor at the docks. He fixed forklifts. Mark was a systems engineer." The voice corrected, devoid of sympathy. "One of the best. He didn't just fix machines. Monica. He built the algorithm. Falcon isn't a drug ring. It's a surveillance program. It predicts behavior. It manipulates voting patterns. It decides who wins elections before the first ballot is cast." Monica sank into the creaky wooden chair. Her knees gave out. He built it? He wrote the code. The voice continued. 5 years ago, he found out how they were going to use it. To silence opposition. To rig the governor's race. He tried to delete it. He tried to run. So they killed him, Monica said, tears welling up in her eyes. Not tears of grief this time, but tears of betrayal. "He lied to me. Every day. For 10 years. He lied to protect you," the voice said, "but he left a back door. A kill switch. That's what you're holding, Monica. That hard drive key. The code in the locket. It's the only thing that can shut Falcon down forever." Monica looked at the silver key she had used to open the locker. It wasn't just a key to a box. It was the key to a digital bomb. "Why me?" she asked. "Why didn't he give it to you?" "Because he didn't trust anyone but you. He knew you were stronger than you looked. He knew you would fight for Tyler." Tyler. Monica looked over at her son. He was asleep, finally, his face peaceful in the lantern light. Mark had built a monster. And then he had died trying to kill it. And now, he had left her holding the sword. "What do I do?" Monica asked, her voice steadying. The betrayal was still there, burning hot, but the mission was clearer now. "The architect, the man who took over Mark's work, knows you have the key. He will burn Seattle to the ground to get it. You can't run anymore." "I know," Monica said. She reached into the duffel bag and pulled out the Glock. She ejected the magazine, checked the rounds, and slammed it back in. A motion she had seen in movies 1,000 times. But now, it felt natural. It felt necessary. "Where is the server?" Monica asked. "Not the server," the voice said. "The broadcast. Tomorrow night, Governor Sterling is holding a victory rally at the Space Needle. The algorithm goes live at midnight to shift the final polls. You have to be there. The Space Needle? Monica scoffed. It'll be crawling with security. I'm a fugitive. Exactly, the voice said. They're looking for a scared mother running for the border. They aren't looking for a ghost walking right into the spotlight. I can't take Tyler. I know a place. A safe house. But you have to move now. The tide is turning. Monica hung up the phone. She looked at the photo of Mark in the file. He looked serious, focused, a stranger. I don't know who you were, Mark, she whispered to the photo. But I know who I am. I'm the one who's going to finish what you started. She stood up and walked over to Tyler. She stroked his hair. Wake up, little soldier, she murmured softly. We have one last ride. Outside, the rain stopped. The clouds parted just enough to reveal a sliver of the moon, sharp, cold, and bright like a blade. Monica Reed stepped out onto the deck of the houseboat. She didn't look like a waitress anymore. She didn't even look like a victim. In the reflection of the dark water, she looked like an avenger. And she was heading back to the city. 6 a.m. St. Jude's Monastery, North Bend. The fog hung low over the old stone walls of the monastery, obscuring the tops of the fir trees. It was quiet here, a silence that felt holy. Or perhaps just dead. Monica knelt on the wet cobblestones, buttoning Tyler's jacket all the way to his chin. Her hands were steady now. The trembling had stopped hours ago, replaced by a cold, crystalline focus. Listen to me, Ty, she said, her voice soft but fierce. You stay with Sister Mary. You don't go outside. You don't look out the windows. You play with your dinosaur. And you wait for me. Tyler's eyes were wide, red-rimmed from crying. He looked so small against the gray stone of the church. Are you going to fight the bad men again? Monica brushed a stray lock of hair from his forehead. I'm going to fix the machine that Daddy built. And then I'm coming back. I promise. She kissed his forehead, holding the embrace for a second longer than necessary. Breathing in the scent of his shampoo. Memorizing the weight of him. Then she stood up and walked away. She didn't look back. If she looked back, she would never leave. 7 p.m. Downtown Seattle. The Space Needle pierced the night sky like a futuristic spear. Its saucer-shaped observation deck glowing with aggressive gold and purple lights, the campaign colors of Governor Sterling. Below, the Seattle Center was a fortress. Concrete barriers, metal detectors, bomb-sniffing dogs. A sea of reporters and well-dressed donors were funneling toward the glass elevators, eager to celebrate the man who promised to secure our future. Monica Reed stood in the shadow of the Chihuly Garden and Glass exhibit, watching the parade of wealth and power. She didn't look like Monica Reed anymore. Her long, brown hair was gone. In its place was a sharp, angular bob, dyed a severe platinum blonde. The cheap waitress uniform and muddy jeans had been replaced by a sleek, black evening gown she had acquired from a high-end boutique in Belltown using a stolen credit card provided by The Voice. She touched the small earpiece hidden in her left ear. I'm at the perimeter, she murmured, barely moving her lips. There are 3 checkpoints. Facial recognition at every single one. The synthesized voice crackled in her ear. Trust the algorithm, Monica. I've looped your biometric data. To the cameras. You are Sarah Jenkins, a mid-level donor from Spokane. But you have to keep your head up. Walk with arrogance. Wealth doesn't hide, it struts. Monica took a deep breath. The Glock 19 was gone. left in a locker at the bus station. She couldn't get a weapon past the magnetometers. Her only weapon now was the silver key taped to the inside of her thigh, hidden beneath the silk of her dress. She stepped into the light. "Ticket, please," a security guard with a headset barked, blocking her path. Monica flashed a digital invitation on the burner phone. She looked him dead in the eye, channeling every ounce of disdain she had ever seen from the rich customers at her diner. "Do not make me wait," she said, her voice icy. "The governor is expecting me." The guard scanned the code. Beep. Green light. He looked at her face. He looked at the screen. "Enjoy your evening, Ms. Jenkins." She walked through. Checkpoint 1 cleared. The lobby of the Space Needle was a chaotic swirl of champagne flutes and forced laughter. A string quartet played Vivaldi in the corner, trying to drown out the faint sound of protesters chanting outside. Monica navigated the crowd like a shark in a reef. She grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing tray. Not to drink, but to blend in. She needed to get to the observation deck. That was where the server access port was. "Elevator 3 is for VIPs only," the voice whispered. "That's your target, but be careful. The architect's security detail is using it." Monica moved toward the bank of elevators. A group of men in tuxedos were waiting. She slipped in behind them, keeping her gaze neutral. The doors slid open. They filed in. Monica stepped in last, pressing her back against the glass wall. As the elevator began its ascent, the city of Seattle dropped away beneath her feet, a sprawling grid of wet light. Suddenly, the doors began to close, but a hand shot out to stop them. "Hold that, please." A man stepped inside. Monica's blood turned to ice. It was him. The man from the port. The assassin. He wasn't wearing his gray trench coat. He was in a tuxedo now, tailored to hide the bulk of his frame. But Monica saw the stiffness in his left shoulder, where she had shot him. His arm was in a sling, discreetly tucked inside his jacket. He turned around, facing the doors. He was standing less than 2 feet away from her. The elevator was silent, save for the hum of the machinery. The air smelled of expensive cologne and fear. Monica stared at the back of his bald head. If he turned around, if he looked at her eyes, the disguise wouldn't matter. He knew her eyes. He had seen them when she pulled the trigger. The elevator climbed. 200 feet. 300 feet. The assassin shifted his weight. He groaned softly, a sound of pain escaping his lips. He reached into his pocket with his good hand and pulled out a bottle of pills. He dry swallowed 2 of them. He turned his head slightly to the left, toward her. Monica didn't flinch. She took a sip of her champagne, looking bored, looking through him. "Rough night?" she asked. The words left her mouth before she could stop them. It was madness. It was suicide. The assassin stopped. He turned fully to look at her. His eyes were cold, dead things. He scanned her face, the blonde hair, the makeup, the dress. For a second, recognition flickered in his gaze. "Skiing accident," he grunted, his voice gravel. "Shame," Monica replied, checking her watch. "You should be more careful. Slopes can be slippery." The elevator chimed. Observation deck. The doors slid open. The noise of the party, cheering, applause, speeches, flooded in. The assassin stared at her for 1 more second. Then, he nodded curtly and walked out. Monica let out a breath she felt she had been holding for 5 years. Her legs were shaking so hard she had to lean against the glass wall. "Monica?" The voice asked in her ear. Heart rate spike detected. Status? I'm in, she whispered, stepping out into the lion's den. And I just looked the devil in the eye. The server room is behind the kitchen. The voice directed. You have 10 minutes before Sterling starts his speech. After that, the algorithm goes live. Move. Monica set her glass down on a table. She straightened her dress. The hunt was over. The sabotage had begun. The kitchen of the Space Needle was a chaotic symphony of clattering pans, shouting chefs, and the hiss of steam. It was the perfect cover. Monica slipped through the service doors, blending into the frantic energy. She grabbed a silver tray from a rack, holding it up like a shield to hide her face from the cameras mounted near the ceiling. Hey, you, a sous chef with a thick mustache shouted, pointing a ladle at her. Wait staff isn't allowed back here. Monica didn't stop. She locked eyes with him, channeling the imperious attitude of Sarah Jenkins. Governor Sterling requested a specific vintage. She snapped. Do you want to explain to him why his toast is delayed? The chef faltered. In that split second of hesitation, Monica pushed past him, ducking into the narrow corridor marked authorized personnel only. She dropped the tray. The noise was swallowed by the kitchen's din. She was alone. The corridor was cold, lit by harsh fluorescent strips that hummed with a headache-inducing frequency. At the end of the hall stood a heavy steel door with a biometric scanner. I'm at the door, Monica whispered. Bypassing now, the voice replied in her ear. 3, 2, 1. The light on the scanner turned green. Click thunk. Monica pushed the heavy door open. The server room. It wasn't a room, it was a freezer. The air conditioning was blasting to keep the massive banks of servers cool. The noise was deafening, a constant, high-pitched whine of thousands of cooling fans. Rows of black monoliths blinked with rhythmic blue and green lights, processing data at the speed of light. This was the brain of Seattle. This was the heart of Project Falcon. Where is the terminal? Monica asked, shivering in her silk dress. Row 4, Rack 12. There should be a manual override port. Monica ran down the aisle, her heels clicking on the raised floor tiles. She found it, a standalone console with a single monitor and a physical keyboard. She reached under her dress and ripped the tape from her thigh. The silver key, Mark's key, glinted in the blue light. She inserted it into the slot on the console. The screen flickered. A logo appeared. A stylized falcon with its wings spread over a globe. Access granted. Welcome, architect. Monica's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Upload the patch. The voice commanded urgently. We only have a window of 2 minutes before the system realizes there's an intruder. Monica began to type. She didn't know code, but the voice guided her, reciting strings of commands. As the progress bar on the screen began to fill, a window popped up. It wasn't part of the upload. It was a log file. Predictive model. Subject 8920, Mark Reed. Calculated probability of descent, 98.7%. Recommended action, termination. Date of execution, October 14, 2019. Monica froze. The date. It was the day Mark died. She scrolled down. Predictive model. Subject 8921, Monica Reed. Calculated probability of interference, 12%. Action. Monitor. Tears blurred her vision. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't even a spur-of-the-moment murder. It was math. Mark had been killed by a calculation. An equation that decided he was a liability before he had even made a move. And she was just a 12% variable. A statistical insignificance. You underestimated the variable, she whispered, her voice trembling with rage. Upload, 85%. 90%. Step away from the console. Mrs. Reed. The voice didn't come from her earpiece. It came from behind her. Monica spun around. Standing at the end of the aisle was a man in a police dress uniform. His chest was decorated with medals that gleamed under the server lights. He held a standard-issue pistol, aimed steadily at her heart. "Chief Vance, the architect." "I have to admit," Vance said, his voice calm, almost fatherly, "you made it further than the model predicted. Perhaps the algorithm does have a flaw." "You killed him," Monica said. She didn't raise her hands. She kept one hand behind her, resting on the enter key. "You were his friend. He trusted you." "I protected the city," Vance corrected, stepping closer. "Mark was brilliant, but he was weak. He didn't understand that peace requires control. Falcon doesn't just rig elections. Monica, it predicts crime. It stops riots before they start. It saves lives." "It killed my husband," Monica screamed. "It tried to kill my son." "Collateral damage," Vance sighed. "Necessary sacrifices for the greater good. Now, step away. If you press that key, I will kill you." Upload, 98%. Monica looked at the screen. Just one keystroke. She looked at Vance. He wasn't bluffing. His finger tightened on the trigger. "If I die," Monica said, staring him down, "the truth comes out anyway." "No," Vance shook his head. "If you die, you're just a crazy woman who broke into the Space Needle. A tragic suicide. We write the story, Monica. We always have." The door behind Vance opened. The assassin, the man from the elevator, limped in. He blocked the only exit. She was trapped. But then, the voice in her ear spoke one last time. "It's ready. Do it." Monica smiled. It was a sad, broken smile. "You can write the story," she said to Vance, "but you can't stop the signal." She slammed her fist onto the enter key. Click. Upload complete. Vance fired. Bang. The bullet hit Monica in the shoulder, the same shoulder the assassin had grazed. The impact threw her backward. She slammed into the server rack, sliding down to the floor. Pain, white and blinding, exploded in her chest. The screen on the console turned red, then black. Then, every server in the room, hundreds of them, began to power down. The fan spun to a halt. The lights died. The room plunged into silence. "What did you do?" Vance roared, rushing to the console. He hammered on the keys. But the screen remained dead. "System purge," Monica wheezed, clutching her bleeding shoulder. "It's gone. All of it." Vance turned on her, his face twisted in fury. He raised the gun to her head. "You ruined everything." "No," Monica coughed, blood staining her teeth. "I just balanced the equation." The assassin stepped forward, putting a hand on Vance's arm. "Chief, the party upstairs. The lights are out. The governor is panicking. We need to go." Vance lowered the gun. He looked at Monica with pure hatred. "Take her," he ordered the assassin. "Get her out the back way. No police. No records." "Where are we taking her?" Vance holstered his weapon. "To the hollow. We'll find out where she hid the boy. And then, we delete the variable. Permanently." Darkness took over Monica's vision as the assassin dragged her to her feet. She had lost the battle. She was bleeding, captured, and alone. But as they dragged her out of the silent server room, Monica Reed smiled. Because somewhere in North Bend, a little boy was safe. And somewhere on the internet, the truth was beginning to upload. Pain has a color. For Monica, it was white, blinding, searing white that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. She woke up to the smell of old rust and gasoline. Her mouth tasted like copper. She tried to move her hands, but they were zip-tied tight to the arms of a heavy metal chair. She opened her eyes. The room was cavernous, lit by a single, swaying construction light. The shadows stretched long and distorted against corrugated metal walls. She knew this place. It wasn't a prison. It was the old Bainbridge Gasworks, the abandoned facility right next to the ferry terminal. The exact spot where Mark had died. "Welcome back to the family reunion," a voice echoed. Chief Vance stepped into the circle of light. He had removed his dress uniform jacket. His white shirt was rolled up at the sleeves, revealing forearms that looked too clean for a man with so much blood on his hands. "You have a high tolerance for pain, Mrs. Reed," Vance said, circling her chair. "Most people would have gone into shock by now." "Where is he?" Monica rasped, her throat dry as sandpaper. "The assassin?" Vance chuckled humorlessly. "He's outside, digging a hole. 2 holes. Actually, one for you, one for the boy." Monica surged forward, straining against the ties, ignoring the scream of agony from her gunshot wound. "If you touch him, then tell me where he is," Vance roared, his calm facade finally cracking. He slammed his hand against the metal table next to her. "You destroyed the servers. You wiped 5 years of data. The algorithm is blind because of you." "Good," Monica spat, blood flecking her lips. "It's not good." Vance leaned in close, his face inches from hers. "Without Falcon, the city falls apart. Crime spikes. Markets crash. I need the backup codes." Mark always kept a backup. "Where is it? Is it with the boy?" "Mark didn't trust you," Monica whispered, staring into his eyes. "He knew you were a monster. That's why he died." Vance straightened up. He sighed, wiping sweat from his forehead. "He didn't die instantly. You know, the gas leak, it was slow. He suffocated. I watched him on the monitors. He was begging, Monica, not for his life, but for yours." Something inside Monica broke, and then, it hardened into something unbreakable. "You watched him die," she said, her voice eerily calm. "And now I'm going to watch you die. Unless you give me the boy." Vance pulled a knife from his belt. A serrated tactical blade. He placed the cold steel against Monica's cheek. "Last chance. Monica, where is Tyler?" Boom. The metal wall behind Vance exploded inward. Debris and dust sprayed across the room. The shockwave threw Vance off his feet, sending him crashing into a pile of rusted pipes. Through the hole in the wall, smoke billowed in, and through the smoke, a figure emerged. He wasn't a cop. He wasn't a soldier. He was a young man in a hoodie and a tactical vest, holding a modified assault rifle. The voice. "Step away from her," the young man shouted. Vance scrambled to his feet, reaching for his gun. Pop pop. The young man fired 2 precise shots. Vance's gun flew out of his hand, and he howled in pain, clutching his wrist. The assassin rushed in from the side door, weapon raised. "Down," the young man yelled at Monica. Monica threw her weight forward, tipping the chair over just as bullets chewed up the space where her head had been. She hit the concrete floor hard, the impact jarring her wounded shoulder. But she was alive. Gunfire erupted. It was deafening in the enclosed space. The young man took cover behind a pillar, exchanging fire with the assassin. "Monica, the knife!" the young man shouted. Monica looked. Vance's knife had slid across the floor when he fell. It was 5 feet away. She was on her side, still tied to the chair. She couldn't walk. She couldn't crawl. She dragged herself, inch by agonizing inch, using her heels to push, scraping her face against the dirty concrete. The assassin was flanking the young man. He was moving in for the kill. Vance, bleeding and furious, saw Monica moving. He grabbed a length of pipe and limped toward her. "Die!" Vance screamed, raising the pipe. Monica reached the knife. Her fingers brushed the handle. She couldn't cut the ties on her hands. Not in time. She rolled onto her back, gripping the knife between her bound hands, pointing the blade upward just as Vance swung down. She didn't block the pipe. She thrust the knife up. Vance's momentum carried him right onto the blade. Thunk! The sound was wet and final. Vance gasped, his eyes wide with shock. The pipe clattered to the floor. He looked down at the knife buried deep in his stomach, held by the woman he had underestimated. "Equation. Balanced," Monica whispered. Vance fell to his knees, then slumped over sideways. The architect was dead. Across the room, silence fell. Monica craned her neck. The assassin was lying on the ground, motionless. The young man stood over him, breathing heavily, his rifle smoking. He rushed over to Monica, pulling a pair of cutters from his vest. He sliced the zip ties. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice shaking slightly. He wasn't a killer. He was terrified. Monica sat up, rubbing her raw wrists. She looked at the young man. He had messy hair and glasses. He looked like a college student. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm Julian," he said, offering her a hand. "I was Mark's intern. I wrote the code for the back door." Monica took his hand. It was warm. "You're the voice. And you," Julian smiled weakly, "are the toughest person I've ever met. Is it over?" Julian looked at Vance's body. He looked at the assassin. "The head is cut off," Julian said, "but the body is still twitching. The police are coming. Real police this time. State troopers. The FBI. They think I'm a murderer." "Not anymore." Julian pulled out a tablet from his bag. "While you were busy being a hero, I uploaded the audio from the server room. Vance's confession. It's on every news channel in the country right now. You're not a fugitive, Monica. You're a whistleblower." Monica looked around the dark, ruined gasworks. She looked at the spot where Mark must have taken his last breath. "We need to go," she said, standing up on shaky legs. "I have to pick up my son." "I have a car outside," Julian said. "Let's get you out of here." As they walked out into the cool, pre-dawn air, the sirens were wailing in the distance. But this time, they didn't sound like a threat. They sounded like an ending. The rain had finally stopped. 2 weeks later. Seattle doesn't always rain. Sometimes, rare and beautiful, the clouds break. The sun spills over the Cascade Mountains, turning the gray water of the Puget Sound into a sheet of hammered gold. It was one of those mornings. The kind that makes you believe in second chances. Monica Reed sat on a bench in the courtyard of St. Jude's Monastery. The air smelled of blooming rhododendrons and wet earth. Her arm was still in a sling. The clean white bandage a stark contrast to the black dress she wore. The bruises on her face had faded to a dull yellow, hidden behind oversized sunglasses. She wasn't hiding anymore, she was just healing. She watched Tyler playing near the fountain. He was chasing a butterfly, his laughter ringing clear and unburdened in the morning air. He didn't look like a boy who had been held at gunpoint. Children are resilient like that, they bend. But they rarely break. He looks happy, a voice said. Monica didn't flinch. She turned to see Julian walking across the grass. He looked different too, cleaner, less frantic. He wore a button-down shirt and carried a thick leather satchel. He thinks we're still on a secret mission, Monica said, a small smile touching her lips. I told him the bad guys are in timeout forever. Well, that's one way to put it. Julian sat down next to her. He pulled a newspaper from his bag. The headline of the Seattle Times was bold and black: Governor Sterling indicted, the Falcon Files exposed. Below it, a smaller picture of Chief Vance, with the caption, "Disgraced police chief found dead in abandoned gasworks." And below that, a photo of Elias Thorne, the journalist who knew too much. They're calling Elias a hero, Julian said softly. They're naming a journalism scholarship after him. He would have hated that. Monica laughed, a sound that felt rusty in her throat. He would have said scholarships don't pay for whiskey. And you? Julian looked at her. They're calling you a victim, a witness. Some are even calling you a vigilante. But the DA isn't pressing charges. Self-defense. Extremists. You're free, Monica. Free. She repeated the word, tasting it. It didn't taste like victory. It tasted like survival. I have something for you. Julian reached into his satchel again. When we scrubbed the servers, I found a digital lockbox attached to Mark's personal profile. It wasn't code. It was a message. He handed her a thick, cream-colored envelope. On the front, in Mark's familiar, messy handwriting, was a single word, Mon. Monica took it. Her hands trembled, just a little. I'll give you a moment, Julian said, standing up. He walked over to the fountain to join Tyler. Monica ran her thumb over the paper. She took a deep breath, the scent of pine and flowers filling her lungs, and tore it open. Inside was a letter, dated 3 days before Mark died. My dearest Mon, if you are reading this, then I made a mistake, a calculation error, and it cost me everything. I never wanted you to know about Falcon. I wanted our life to be simple. I wanted to be the man who fixed things around the house. Not the man who broke the world. But when I saw what they were doing, when I saw they were building a cage for the future, I couldn't just watch. I built the back door not because I'm a hero. I built it because I looked at Tyler sleeping one night, and I realized I couldn't leave him a world where his choices didn't matter. They will come for me. I know that now. The probability is 98%. But here is the variable they didn't account for. You. They see a waitress. They see a mother. They see someone weak. But I know the truth. You are the strongest person I have ever known. You are the storm they can't predict. Don't mourn me, Mon. Live. Take our boy and live a life that is loud, and messy, and free. I love you. To the last digit of pi. Mark. Monica lowered the letter. A single tear escaped from under her sunglasses, tracking a path down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. She let it fall. It was the last drop of the storm. She looked up at the sky. It was so blue it hurt. Mommy. Tyler came running back, breathless, holding a small white flower. Julian followed close behind, his hands in his pockets. "Look, for you." Tyler pressed the flower into her hand. Monica took the flower. She looked at Julian. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." "What now?" Julian asked. "Where will you go?" Monica stood up. She winced slightly as her shoulder pulled. But she stood tall. She tucked the letter into her pocket, right next to the old silver locket. "We have a car," she said. "We have a full tank of gas. And for the first time in 5 years, we have the truth." She took Tyler's hand. "Are we going home, Mom?" Tyler asked. Monica looked at the gate of the monastery, leading out to the winding road that cut through the mountains. "No, Ty," she said, squeezing his hand, "we're going forward." They walked toward the car, their shadows long on the gravel path. The journalist was gone, the architect was dead, the system was broken. But the mother and the son remained. As they drove away, the sun climbed higher, burning off the last of the morning mist, leaving the road ahead clear, bright, and open.